Hello, my name is Lydia Radin, and I'm making this brief introduction to an audio tape telephone conversation that I had on July 1st, 2015 with John Vidurek, also known as a.k.a. John Darash. I want to do a brief introduction so you can understand the audio tape conversation, and I very briefly would like to touch on the litigation points. So basically, what's brought all this to a head is that there's an organization called the National Liberty Alliance, and for the past few months, the head of the Courtroom Observers Group, Eric Hughes Jones, has been persecuted mercilessly by Gary Jolly, Robert Briscoe, and Jan Holland, who apparently were appointed to some sort of national leadership positions by John Darash. Now, the problem here is that Eric Hughes Jones, who has been directing all his energies outward, had a bulletin board, and he was organizing phone calls and for people who are going into courtrooms with Courtroom Observers Group. This is a group that I've been working with, and I've been working with Eric for about a year. He's been posting alerts on the bulletin board at National Liberty Alliance, and Eric's energies are all directed outward. He's very high energy, and he's very talented, and he's writing advertising copy that everybody understands is designed to inspire and motivate people to help those of us who are going into the corrupt courts and to try to stop some of the deceptive practices in the courts. So while Eric is developing value, positive relationships, reciprocity, all kinds of value for the National Liberty Alliance, he is being persecuted mercilessly by those in the organization, Gary Jolly, Robert Briscoe, Jan Holland, who want to take what he's created away from him and unlawfully expel him from the organization, which is what happened. So this telephone conversation is where I start asking some questions on behalf of Eric Hughes Jones. I've also been working in the Courtroom Observers Group, and I'm the feet on the ground where me and the folks that I'm organizing in New York and Manhattan are going into the courtrooms and trying to give each other mutual support. Now, what you're going to hear in this conversation is shocking. Every deceptive practice that we're against in the court was practiced on us. And what you're going to hear, very briefly, I want to tick through the litigation points, is that there's no accountability in this organization. Apparently, when you donate, and you'll hear John Darash say, you're not going to get any answers. There's no accounting, and there's never going to be any accounting for the money that you donate. Apparently, John Darash has 3 corporations, Custom Built, Trade Winds Unlimited, and Xylem Corporation. If you send a money order to Trade Winds, he very carefully tells you to write it out to Trade Winds, not Trade Winds Unlimited, so that it doesn't catch your attention that this is a corporation. One of the members of the National Liberty Alliance, NLA, related to me that he sent a money order to Trade Winds, a donation, and he had no idea that the Trade Winds a corporation was being used to cash checks. And you'll hear John say, I'm using Trade Winds to cash the checks and the money orders. He also uses Xylem Corporation, another member of NLA, sent me a PayPal receipt where through PayPal, Xylem Corporation is accepting PayPal donations because he's using Trade Winds, which apparently is a printing franchise, a company that John owns. He's using Trade Winds and Xylem Corporation to accept money on behalf of NLA because he doesn't want to show an income, because purportedly the IRS is after him. And I think what's really going on here is that John Darash wants political power. So apparently, in his background, and I'm still double and triple checking, apparently he started with the Oath Keepers, he started teaching about the Constitution, which is a beautiful document, so people, naturally paid attention. Apparently, he had some contact with Ron Paul's group, with military, with the Conservative Party, with the Tea Party, with Republicans. So when he's talking about, the government's after me for, the IRS has been after me, he's trying to buy into everybody's dissatisfaction and hatred of the IRS. But in fact, he may not be trying to hide income from the IRS pursuant to some sort of, apparently got involved some trouble with the IRS, or they drummed up some trouble for him about a double endorsed check for $125,000, and he claims he won that case. However, Dutchess County court documents show, as recently as May 2014, that there was a judgment gotten against John Vidurek for $13,000. So it may be, and I could be wrong, and I welcome John's input. We asked John, and you'll hear it in this telephone conversation, John, you want common law grand juries. Let's convene a common law grand jury and start answering some of these questions. Are the donations that you're cashing through Tradewinds Corporation, Tradewinds Unlimited, and a printing franchise, apparently, and Xylem Corporation, is this to hide income from the IRS, or is it to try to dodge this $13,000 judgment that was gotten against you as recently as May 2014, according to Dutchess County documents? John will not submit to a common law grand jury. He misconstrues, he tells half-truths, he muddies the waters. Apparently, according to U.S. versus Williams, a Supreme Court case that he likes to distribute to all of us, a common law grand jury or grand jury can just get together and make inquiries, even if there is no overt criminal wrongdoing, but just to make sure that there isn't any. And John, you'll hear in this telephone conversation, refuses to submit to the same lawful process that he wants judges to submit to. So he's acting as if he were a blatant hypocrite. There's absolutely no accountability in this organization. It's impossible for us to recruit new members. What can we possibly say? Oh yeah, join the NLA, the National Liberty Alliance, donate money to John. He'll cash your checks through these corporations because he doesn't want to produce an income that can be tracked by the IRS, but perhaps he's really trying to dodge this judgment against him from May 2014 for $13,000. I mean, is this an organization you really want to join? Now, because I started making these inquiries, apparently John, in order, again, to dodge accountability, opened up a common law trust. But he says in this telephone conversation, you're never going to see how much money comes into this organization. You're never going to see how much money goes out of this organization, even though they're claiming that, they're doing such a good job that for $20,000, they can do a job that was originally guesstimated at, much more than that. So I'm like, well, I would think if you could do that, if you're doing a faxing job of $20,000 that was, guesstimated would cost much more than that, you would want to, blow your own horn and show people how you could do it for much less. But he doesn't want to do that. He also says that, I asked him about due process, and you see, John is trying to fool people, deceive people into thinking that this is the Church of John. I don't belong to the Church of John. He tries to muddy the waters with appeals to God and prayers. These are all part of the deceptive practices. So I asked about due process. So he doesn't really know if he's a political action committee, whether he's a political organization, whether he's the Church according to John, whether he's a volunteer association. He claims to be a volunteer association. And I say, well, you can't unlawfully remove Eric Hughes Jones and other people as recently as last week. Today is Monday, July 6, 2015. So as recently as last week, members of the organization were removed without due process. And he, again, uses the same deceptive practices that we are fighting against in the corrupt courts. And he says, well, it's a volunteer organization. People voluntarily come and people voluntarily go. That's not true. Eric Hughes Jones did not voluntarily go. He was defrauded, deceived, and unlawfully removed. And even in volunteer associations, nothing can be taken from you without due process. So even if you were part of an equestrian horse riding club or a chess club or a knitting club, we have liberty and property interests in our voluntary or free associations. So before you can remove someone and stigmatize them and defame them, and he's defaming Eric Hughes Jones as, oh, he's some kid with emotional problems and I'm Big Daddy, and it's really very frightening when he says things like, I say explicitly, doesn't Eric Hughes Jones, doesn't he deserve his constitutionally protected right to due process? I mean, are you serious, John? And he says, that's right. I don't have to give him due process. I'm not the government. It's irrelevant whether you're the government or not. Even a voluntary association has to have due process, which means that before you eject somebody from you or expel them from your voluntary association, you have to have some written, published, membership approved procedures for due process. Now, there are no bylaws in this organization. Bylaws do not equal policy and procedures. Due process does not equal meetings. If you're going to remove anybody from this volunteer organization, then there has to be written notice. Eric has to know what crimes or transgressions or what terrible thing that he did. It has to be written down. There has to be an opportunity for him to appear in front of a neutral objective hearing board, not the Three Stooges that John Darash appointed. By the way, there are no bylaws in this organization. John is the self-appointed prince. The Three Stooges are the self-appointed people who decided they were going to be the national coordinators. I don't know the national coordinators of what. I didn't think we were a political party, so I feel defrauded. But apparently Robert Briscoe, Gary Jolly, and Jan Holland have been appointed. So these are, the membership who's paying for this. It's our money, our talent, our work product, our intellectual property. When Eric Hughes Jones, for example, writes a very good copy, he's talking to people about they're going to court, they're afraid of the corrupt court system. He's trying to organize some advocacy for them in a telephone calls, for example, and he'll write a little synopsis of their case. He'll put it up on the bulletin board, and he will use language that motivates and inspires people. And apparently John wants to censor his language. We all know that Eric is writing a little over the top. He's writing Madison Avenue copy. I mean, he should be on Madison Avenue writing advertising. This is the kind of breakout value that you need. So we have this very talented person, and everybody knows that Eric Hughes Jones is not defaming anybody. So what we have is Gary Jolly running around and Robert Briscoe persecuting Eric Hughes Jones, trying to force him out of the organization, claiming that the organization is going to be sued for defamation. That's ridiculous. The Truth is a complete defense to a charge of defamation. In addition, in order to be sued for defamation, you'd have to be able to show malice. You cannot show that Eric Hughes Jones got up in the morning with evil in his heart and set out to say terrible things to hurt anybody. He's just telling the truth in plain language that apparently some members of the Catholic Church don't particularly care for, and some judges and lawyers don't particularly care for, but it tends to be accurate. So in fact, and going back to due process, if you wanted to force someone out of a voluntary organization, we need a written, published, membership-approved hearing procedure that fully comports with the due process given to due process protections that are articulated in the United States Constitution. So there would have to be there'd have to be written notice, there would have to be a neutral objective hearing board, not the Three Stooges appointed by John, the self-appointed prince. There would have to be, and when I say the Three Stooges, I mean Gary Jolly, Robert Briscoe, and Jan Holland. Jan Holland likes to run around and diagnose people. I'm not his patient. If he dares try to diagnose me again, I will put a stop to that. But apparently, it's all the Soviet psychiatry. Psychiatry is a political weapon. So again, if we were going to have due process, there would have to be written notice to Eric. There would have to be a neutral objective hearing board. If there were any charges brought against Eric by Gary Jolly or Robert Briscoe, they would have to be given under sworn oath. There would have to be a certified verbatim transcript with, at the very least, a court reporter and audio tapes that could be certified. There would have to be findings of fact. And in fact, Eric Hughes Jones was complimented by Federal Judge Benson. The courtroom observers group that we put together was complimented by Federal Judge Benson, the NLA was trying to be characterized as a group that was trying to usurp or undermine the United States government or overthrow the United States government. And in fact, Federal Judge Benson said on the record, the Courtroom Observers Group and the Courtroom Observers Network are impressed Federal Judge Benson as a group of concerned citizens who were making phone calls in the Stephen Dean case in Utah. So that was very complimentary. And most recently, there was a sheriff's department out in the Midwest. That complimented me, Lydia Radin. So in fact, the Courtroom Observers Group that Eric and I have been working on is getting compliments and recognition, developing positive relationships, creating value for the NLA, and our reward is to be persecuted by Gary Jolly and Robert Briscoe, sanctioned by John Vidurek, a.k.a. John Darash, so they can drive the effective, productive people out of the organization and take everything they have. In the same manner that's described as the definitive primer on the psychopathic personality. These people are behaving like psychopaths. So there's no due process in this organization. So we got the Pied Piper of Freedom, John Darash, running around talking about your constitutionally protected rights, but in his organization there are none. And you'll listen to this telephone conversation. So far there's no accountability for money. There's no due process. Meetings are not due process. There's no bylaws. Policies and procedures are not bylaws. We don't know how John Darash got to be in power. This is not a private company that he owns. Now, he may own the web domain, but it's all of our membership money that paid to create and maintain it. It's our free labor. It's our intellectual property, the work of our hands and minds that built the NLA. And instead, what we've got is John Darash claims that everything that we create, he owns everything. We own nothing. He keeps all the value and the wealth that we create. And this is the same nonsense. This is the same battle I won in my medical school, where they tried to treat me as slave labor, and I won that battle. This is the same battle I'm having with Time Warner Cable now, where original content producers of television shows and video shows are being used to create wealth for a corporation, and all our good work is being taken from us. So I'm going to elaborate on this further, but I'm seeing that we're getting into 20 minutes, and I wanted this to be a short introduction. John uses appeals to God and prayers to muddy the waters. What's very frightening about John is, for example, in my case, I'm fighting corrupt Democratic members of the Democratic Party here in New York and Brooklyn and Manhattan. And any little success that I get, John tries to take credit for, so he can try to get support from the Republicans, from the military, from the Conservative Party, from the Tea Party. There's no way that anybody in the military or the Republican Party or the Tea Party or the conservative movement or any decent human being with a conscience can listen to John say that Eric Hughes doesn't deserve his constitutionally protected right to due process. Nothing can be taken from you. Not your good name, not your work product, not your intellectual property. Nothing can be taken from you without the minimal protections of due process. This is the fundamental find at my medical school. John Darash is predatory. Most recently, if you ask him for help, I don't know why you would at this point, but if you ask him for help, he demands that you turn over all your legal documents to him so he can garnish the benefit of all your free legal work. There's no accounting in how any decisions are made in this organization, and very frightening is the small window of opportunity I got into the secret deal making at the NLA with John Darash. And apparently there was, and this is how John puts us at risk. Now, there are those of us out in the field, we fight this battle every day, and we're in the courts every day. And John's putting us at risk because publicly he says that the NLA's job is to put itself out of business. But privately, in secret deals that I was lucky enough when I made a few phone calls to try to find out why Eric Hughes Jones was expelled in violation of his constitutionally protected right to due process. Apparently, Greg Todd, a dishonest Marine, E3, made a proposal to John that the membership didn't know about and doesn't know about to take the NLA in a direction to try to set up the NLA as if it was some sort of parallel structure to watch the American government. And he claims that the reason why the American government got the way it is because it wasn't watched. Okay, this is the Soviet line of reasoning. The reason the American government got the way it is because we're not involved in our government. So we don't need John or Greg Todd to set up a parallel organization to watch and control and tell the American government what to do. We have government oversight agencies. Those government oversight agencies were lawfully put into place. Now, if they're corrupt and co-opted and acting against what we, the American people, feel is not in our best interest, then we need to get involved with our government. So you get on the bus like Lydia Radin did, you go down to Washington and you hunt down your senator like I hunted down Senator Schumer, and you demand accountability. But to set us up as some sort of parallel government structure that John doesn't tell us about means that the NLA is now directly contrary to John Darash's public statements, being set up as some sort of structure to watch the American government and control the American government, to usurp the American government unlawfully, to do it as sedition and treason. This is the secret backroom deal that's being made that we, the NLA members, don't know about. So when we go into courts, like Stephen Dean went into court, and we get arrested, and the next thing you know, we're facing charges, we have no idea what's going on. Our public defender is making deals with the prosecutor. This is exactly the litigation point that the federal prosecutor is looking for to put us all in jail. How do I know? Because in the Stephen Dean case in Utah, I talked to the federal defender, and I played that audio tape conversation on my radio show. And she's saying, they're prosecuting the sovereign citizens, and I had to disavow the sovereign citizens. We are not the sovereign citizens, as far as I know. I don't know what John's doing behind my back now. I don't trust him. And here's the fundamental problem. John's not trustworthy from this point forward because he's acting like the NLA is his private corporation. He's King John. He has appointed, without the knowledge or consent or any bylaws of the membership, the Three Stooges, Gary Jolly, Robert Briscoe, and Jan Holland, claiming that they have their positions because they work for him for free. He set himself up as, I didn't set him up as Prince John, but he acts like it. He violates our constitutionally protected rights. He makes deals that we don't know about that put us at great risk. He is not trustworthy. Now, also in the Midwest most recently, some of the NLA members were talking about how they were targeted and they were falsely accused of being dangerous sovereign citizens who are carrying guns, and all of that's not true. So apparently John is making these secret deals that we don't know about and we're never going to know about ever again. Because apparently as soon as you start asking John questions, then you are unlawfully expelled, and he runs attacks against you that was run against Eric Hughes Jones and me, and apparently a number of other former NLA members, because these problems have been going on in the NLA for at least a year and a half, particularly with regard to the NLA members in Colorado and in Michigan. John, there are other problems, for example, in Utah, and I'm still double and triple checking these allegations. Apparently, common law is unlawful in Utah. So apparently the common law writ that was provided for Stephen Dean may have been unlawful. So we're going to have to look into that. Apparently, UCC filings are much more effective than the common law grand jury, but John doesn't want people to know about that. So apparently there are effective ways of getting some restitution in your case, but John doesn't want that because he wants people to go down this common law grand jury path. And what we're starting to have misgivings about is that really the NLA with its backers are a way to take people who would fight for American values and take them out of the game. So John's backers apparently is some retired judge who's playing a game with our lives. Now, apparently if you do a UCC filing, like in my case, you don't have to go through the court system or a common law grand jury. Here's the question. Do you really want people, I want you to listen to this audio tape conversation, you really want people like this who are violating Eric Hughes Jones and other members' constitutionally protected rights? They actually, John Darash sounds like Jim Jones, and it's very scary. Do you really want these people on your common law grand jury, or would you try to find a way that worked? Because here's the thing, me and the courtroom watchers and the courtroom observers, the people who go to court and are trying to find a way to make the system work, because otherwise we'll be killed, in my case literally, in another case literally, we have to get the system to work. John doesn't want the system to work. He wants to create dissatisfaction to drive people away from the courts and away from their government and into organizations like the NLA. It appears, I used to think that he didn't want people to go into violence, but now I'm not so sure. So if you really, he doesn't want the system to work. We want the system to work. We have to get the system to work because otherwise we'll be dead. So we used to give John the benefit of every doubt and say, look, we're in the vanguard. We got to get the system to work or we're dead. John is bringing up the big guns from the rear, so we got to give him some time. But now it seems like John has been, his mission has been perverted and subverted. And now for the last year and a half, 2 years or so, John and all his rhetoric, John sounds remarkably like my medical school, in the Soviet psychiatry and the deceptive practices. It's a classic Dan Rozelle move to have all your legal documents turned over to Dan Rozelle, a former federal prosecutor who was a bureau chief, who's acting through, a retired judge, and then they can see what your arguments are and where the holes in your case is and how to have you lose your case. So I have grave misgivings about this organization. I'd like you to listen to this audio tape. And what we've got is no accountability, no due process. Due process is not meetings. No bylaws. Policies and procedures are not bylaws. You work for John for free. He owns everything. You own nothing. He keeps all the wealth and the value that you create with your money and your hard work. He'll make secret deals that may cost you your life because you'll be characterized as part of a group that's trying to undermine the government. The Monday night calls are propaganda. They're all staged. He uses, and Gary Jolly uses deceptive practices to the nth degree. This is the same deceptive practices we see over and over and over again in the court system. Jan Holland uses Soviet psychiatry. Psychiatry is a political weapon. There are appeals to God and prayers to muddy the waters. And anything that you do that will have some successes, John will try to take credit for behind your back and never tell you. It was just by great good luck that I learned that because I was standing up to corrupt elected officials in the Democratic Party, that John was trying to ride my coattails and try to get some, support from the Republicans, the military, the Tea Party, the conservative movement, claiming that I was the head of his spear. I'm not John's puppet. In fact, it's the other way around. I mean, we're the ones that protected John. John did not protect us. As we push our cases forward, for example, and we go to the federal courthouses and we ask to speak to our federal grand juries, and this happened in the Southern District of New York, crime victims with me will go into the Southern District of New York, 40 Foley Square, try to reach out to our federal grand jury, as we have a right to do, according to U.S. versus Williams, the Supreme Court. It's the U.S. Marshals who stop us and threaten us with arrest and bully us. John is not taking the risks I am. Me and my people are taking the risks. We're the ones who are threatened with arrest. We're the ones who are bullied. We're the ones who are fighting the good fight. We filled out the affidavits. We filed the affidavits in state and federal court. And we also provided those affidavits to John, because when he's questioned about setting up common law grand juries, we're like, look, we're showing that when we go to the state and federal grand juries, we're blocked. So this is the crime of obstruction of justice. We're being denied our due process rights. I'm organizing groups of freedom fighters who are going to do this. We're crime victims, and we're trying to unvictimize ourselves. And as we go and pursue lawful means, we fill out the affidavits, we file them in state and federal court, and then we give them to John so he can protect himself. So if the FBI comes to his house and says, what are you doing? He can say, well, look, the people are crying out for common law grand juries because they can't access their federal and state grand juries. So we're protecting John, so it's win-win for everyone. And what John does is he acts like a tyrant and a king and stabs us in the back. So we propose, and even worse in the Stephen Dean case, Stephen Dean appears to be a person of diminished capacity. He was used as a pawn, and when Stephen Dean did all this free work for John and paid all the money to do everything John was doing, none of which I agreed to. I don't know where he got this core wanto and all this other stuff that he's doing. That's not why I signed on board. But Stephen Dean went from a person who was pursuing lawful, peaceful means to now, most recently, he's advocating violence. John acts like a psychopath, a predator, and it's very frightening. So I've used up about 33 minutes now. We propose to convene a common law grand jury. We'd like John to answer these questions. According to this telephone conversation, he will not submit to the same lawful procedures that he expects everybody else but him to submit to. So he's just made himself the evil Prince John. He has when you join this organization, he claims that you've relinquished all your constitutionally protected rights because it's a volunteer organization, so you voluntarily come and you voluntarily go. That is not true. I think I've just about... apparently what the real issue here is that what John really wants is political power. So he started with the Oath Keepers. He started with the Oath Keepers. He had this shtick to teach about the Constitution, which is a beautiful document, so people followed him. He tried going to a Ron Paul meetup group. Apparently, according to some former members of the NLA, he wanted to, when he started this common law grand jury shtick, he wanted $35 per person, so he's trying to raise money. He's trying to gain political power any way he can. and he's got 3 corporations. He's not working. So, well, yeah, actually he is working. He's working the members of the NLA. And, I did not donate money so that, if John's going to take money to live, that means the NLA has hired him. Well, then I want to know what he's doing. And he doesn't want that kind of accountability. And so these problems that I've raised and these questions that I've raised have been going on in the NLA for at least a year and a half. And John's propaganda technique on the Monday night calls is to keep bringing new people in so he can fool them, deceive them. And anybody with institutional memory is defamed, expelled from the organization. John is very frightening, frankly. I think he's dangerous to others. And I think we need to convene a common law grand jury and ask John to be accountable. He will not. And then I think we need to ask Google to do a fraud investigation about how all of us paid for the website. And we need to salvage what we can and put a moratorium on everything the NLA is doing. Get our house in order, eject the evil people, write some bylaws, and have people stand for, as qualified people as we can find, take charge of the NLA and return the NLA to its roots, which is to teach about the Constitution and not to hide information like perhaps the common law grand jury is not the way to go, that perhaps the UCC filings are a better remedy, and to stop trying to confuse common law with natural law, which is what our founding fathers were trying to put forth. So with that not so brief introduction, this is the telephone conversation with me and John Vidurek, a.k.a. John Darash. And give it a second or two so you can listen to it. Thank you.
And we did get into a meeting and with Eric and everything, and I'm just wondering why you're going through what you're going through.
I'm not going. What do you think I'm going through?
Well, you're attacking NLA. You're attacking me.
I'm not attacking you. I'm asking to convene.
And you'll not get no answers.
I'm asking for a common law grand jury to answer. Where are the bylaws that govern this organization?
There is no bylaws that govern it. There are rules and different things and policies that we're making up on the fly as we go to control people, to control the process, control the system, until people are educated to be able to do what they need to do on their own. And all of the questions you've asked have been answered numerous times on the Monday calls. But what annoyed me pretty bad I thought it was an evil move, was to go after me with my real name, number one, and to play over to the things that's going on in Fogbo. And then the second thing is to bring my wife into this, which my wife is mostly bedridden. She's been ill for 5 years, and she has nothing to do with what we're doing. Where if she's out of bed, she's trying to do things in life. She certainly is not sitting down on a computer. And the only people in my life that ever attacked my wife to get to me was the IRS. They actually put her name on with my name to put her in jail because they were coming out to put me in jail. And they figure, well, we'll really get this guy. We'll go after his wife. I'm sure if they can go after my children, they do that too. So I was quite surprised that you had done that you'd come out to attack my wife, and you never hear me speak about my wife online. You don't hear my wife speaking or any of those things. And the other thing is the fact that you're coming out making an assault about corporations and different things, and then Eric saying, oh, he's going to jail. I'm tired of all this, and I'm asking you to cease and desist. You can go tell anybody you want, anything you want, okay? But just go away from me, because I don't want to be bothered no more by it. And I think it was pretty evil and pretty wrong.
What is the problem with using your real name?
Because I've been online since 1991 under the name of John Darash. People know me for 25 years as John Darash, number one. Number two, when I got into the Liberty Group movement, my wife was very concerned about my welfare and my being and the family and people being assaulted. And she didn't want me to use my last name. I said, okay, I'll just continue in John Darash. There's nothing wrong with that. People have screen names. It has come up numerous times on a Monday call because people want to be evil. I'd like to have some kind of an anonymous way, even if it's just a false feeling that I'm being protected by, they don't know who I really am. Because if you don't think that I'm in trouble and a target to these people, then you're not in the same planet I am. They don't want me around. They don't want me breathing. Fogbo hates my guts. These people are evil SOBs over there, and they're doing anything to destroy me. They make up stories that I just can't believe. Now, any of my corporations, and I don't even know why you would bring those things up. What, do you want to make attention to the IRS over here? You want me to go out there and put, we got $20 in today. We got a total of $3,560 this month. Hey, IRS, look over here. You don't think I'm not a target? You think I'm going to go out there and do that? You think I'm making money hands over fist? I gave up my business to do it. My wife hates me for what I did with the money. I spent all of our money on this here, right here, what we're talking about. And then you come up and assault me, you attack me, you don't know, of course I don't care. You don't know anything about me, you don't know my wife, you don't know my finances, you don't know my corporations, and you speak as if you do. And you assault, and you're destroying the only hope, other than lock and load in America, the only hope to save America peacefully is what we are doing. And you're out destroying it. And then you take this kid, Eric, who I'm trying to mentor this kid, trying to bring him back in and reeling him. He's staying far away from me. And he just goes off on an assault. He never would have done that without you, I don't believe.
Oh, so I'm the target.
Well, because you encourage people. Why are you so much with Eric?
Eric asked me to help him with the Courtroom Observers Network for like a year. Where's the due process procedure that you use to expel Eric from the NLA? Where's the
Eric has never been expelled from the NLA.
You told him you fired him yesterday.
Yesterday, yes.
And you claimed that he was you claimed that he was responsible for.
Where is it? You say where is it? Well, you went to the very same meeting where we spoke with Eric, we spoke with Greg and problems with Greg, we spoke with you were there, we had Gary Jolly, we had Jan, we had Gerard, myself, and we had Robert, Gary, everybody was there. I gave everybody a chance to speak. I think I laid over backward as far as I can go.
Where are the bylaws? Where are the bylaws?
I want to finish before I let you talk, because I'll shut up after I'm finished, because you asked the question, I'm trying to get to the answer. It didn't matter ultimately what any of them said, because every single one of them were acting off emotions. That includes Eric, that includes Gary, that included everybody. Okay, they were all emotional, and they were acting on, if they don't go, I'm going. All these got to go. Well, I don't do well under those conditions, okay? And it didn't matter that they all wanted to make Eric into a certain position, because I wasn't going to allow it, because it's not the right thing to do. That's why I wasn't going to allow it. Not because I'm the big guy, the boss, or the dictator. No, it's because it's the principal thing. And this is a kid that's got problems. He's got family problems. He's got emotional problems. He's very young. And he's in a situation where he's got a lot of prestige, or people are focused. It cuts into the ego part of things, and things are expanding for him. He's a lot of hope, and he's good at what he does. Okay? And I was trying to help that. And if you were unable to see that at the meeting, then you're blind too. I was very surprised that you didn't take a humble attitude.
I understand the psychological...
And listen, there is no bylaws per se. We're working on policies and procedures now. John has written numerous papers on how we are to conduct ourselves and what each position was. This is a project in motion. We're having growing pains. You're over there talking about your personal, what's the word you use? Your intellectual property. John has given away every last iota of his personal.
We didn't ask about John's. We didn't ask what John gave away. Eric asked where his writings were. Where are his writings?
That's a good question. I've never seen Eric's writing. I didn't even know he had any.
Okay, let me ask you. Wait. You answered.
He's got posts there. The posts are where they are.
Well, I look at when Gary took them down, when we told Gary to take them down until we talked, they shouldn't have disappeared. They got to be there.
No. Is there anything that we have not deleted anything, but we've.
Well, then where are they? He wants them back. They disappeared. Where are they?
What do you mean? He doesn't have copies of whatever he posted?
No, he doesn't. He posted them on your.
Well, I don't know if I can get it for him. I'll see what I could do.
Okay, Eric,
I want you to know one thing. Eric is gone because of you, because you guys just didn't stop. And I told Eric I would give him a call. my decision was made to keep Eric and go against everyone else. But Eric, what he did, he couldn't sit around and wait. He made a phone call to Gerard. And he said some horrible things, and then I guess he was able to retract that. But it was heard. Okay, he made a call. I don't know, it was an email or something to me. I'm going to jail. Okay. I mean, I know why the kid would have some kind of thinking like that, and why he thinks he can even do that. I mean, is there something, I'm a criminal or something? I mean, what exactly? I have nothing to worry about at all, so I have no clue. I'm not the government. I don't owe anybody anything. You can't use a statute against me that I gotta do something for you, because I don't have to do anything for anyone. Anything that I do.
Okay, I hear the.
My own heart.
Okay, what are the bylaws that put Gary, Jolly, Robert, and Jan in positions of power?
You are assaulting people.
I'm not assaulting people. I'm asking, what are the bylaws? What vote? What bylaws? What procedure?
There is none. I fill positions as best I can. People volunteer. We get the wrong people in a lot of positions often because they volunteer for it and they're not qualified. But you know what? It's all volunteers. You work with what you have. And Gary has certain.
So where are the bylaws? Where are the bylaws that govern this volunteer association?
There is no bylaws.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
Hold on. We're under common law.
It's a handshake, Lydia. It's not a corporation. Get over it. You're too much in that corporate world, and that's what the problem with your law is you're in the corporate world, you're listening to the fiction. We don't even use your stuff because you put one leg in and one leg out, and that's going to get you in trouble, believe me. Whatever victories you have, they're going to come back and bite you because they want you in that Roman civil corporate law because they can change their hat from civil to criminal to admiralty any place they want at any time, and that's
okay. So what due process procedure did you use to remove Eric from the voluntary association?
We had a meeting.
There was none.
Eric had 5 or 6. Eric has met with John. Eric has met with me. He's met with the other guys. We said, don't do this and don't do that.
At the same time, while he's meeting, he's making war with NLA, saying all kinds of crap and shit
out so
there, and throwing up email calls.
So can you provide me, please?
Because you weren't in the meeting, we didn't have it. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not asking about the meeting. Can you provide me, please, with the written procedures that would provide the members of the voluntary association with due process? It should be a couple pages. Can you?
What's this? What can I provide?
Why don't you write it, Lydia? Why don't you write it?
I didn't volunteer to do free work for your organization.
No, but you're demanding something that we don't have. So
so that's good. That answered the question. That answered the question. You don't have written procedures to provide due process. That you answered.
Hold on. Let me answer that.
And it's John's website, and we don't need it. We're putting them in now.
Okay.
But we did. Hold on. We did set something up. We got Greg, and Greg brought to the attention that we have some people that are complaining and they got some problems. Why don't we get together and have some kind of a, I forget what we called it, but a gripe thing or something. And I said, well, it sounds like a good idea. And I asked, can you implement? And he said, sure, because he does have the management skills. And what his job was to go and talk to each one of these people that are involved with the problem individually. And that was because that's the way you discover the problem. You get everybody's story. And then you have a meeting collectively. And when the collective meeting came, that's when I took over to sit in on it, because I saw that the problems were even also, what happened is that people started to attack Greg. They didn't like the fact that they were being investigated. And it wasn't really investigating. It was just looking into accusations. And
too much information. Too much information.
And then you came in and you destroyed that process completely after we had because someone kept edging this kid. Go on, and he's writing all this stuff, and he's just making war, and it's evil, and I'm going to get it. This is my intellectual property. He doesn't even know those words until he met you. But the bottom line is that we had meetings to try to fix things, and then I took control of the whole meeting because I saw them all in problems. He was a problem, but so was, and Greg got lost into the thing. He got emotionally dragged in, and then he got attacked, and then he responded back, and his behavior was not very well either. Gary's behavior was not well, and certainly Robert's attitude and behavior wasn't well either. And I told them all that, and you were at the meeting. when I was telling them, they all had to step back and dig in to get some...
I didn't need the prayer. I wasn't at church. I don't need you to preach. All I asked for was, do you have...
We're trying to bring God...
I don't need... It's not a confessional.
So that we would have humility, because humility comes from God.
It's not a confessional. All I asked was, before you expelled Eric from the Voluntary Association of Volunteers, or the co-op, or whatever you want to call it, do you have a written procedure for due process? Your answer was no. Here's my next question. Why did you take my writ of prohibition with the supplemental papers off the website without my knowledge?
I have no idea where your papers are. I don't know how you would even get them up there, but...
I was told to post on...
I don't think anyone can upload other than myself and a few other people.
That's not true. I uploaded, and my writ of...
I have no idea.
There was also
we have 50 states out there with 50
I understand.
Groups. We have 5 other groups, you know...
it was a yes/no question. My writings.
I'm sure you have copies of that. So
my writings for Walter Sullivan were also removed.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Did Gary Jolly hack into my private email? Can you find out?
How would he hack into your private email?
Because I've been having problems ever since.
Why would Gary hack in?
I don't know. I've heard complaints from other.
That would make him a criminal.
Well, I don't know. That's why I'm asking the question. It's a yes/no question.
I don't believe that Gary's a criminal. I'm not going to accuse him of
anything.
Anything.
I asked him if he hacked into my private email. Yes or no?
All right, well, let me ask you a question. Why are you going through this destructive mode for us?
It's not a destructive mode. What we want to
do... Well, what is it? Everything you do, and you want us to corporatize, you want us to...
No, I asked for a common law grant.
You want me to tell you what kind of money we collect? I mean, all this stuff.
So you're not accountable for the budget, is that correct?
There's no way we could be accountable with an IRS out there, is there? You don't think I'm not going to jail? You don't think that they're going to try? They're looking for a chink in my armor. They're looking for that. And if you don't think that me putting up X amount of dollars a month coming in and what we're spending it for, because they're not going to agree with it, and they'll take that whole thing and they'll make it income, and it'll crack open first of all, it'll also crack open the trust that I created. I created the trust, so I am protected.
Okay, so there's no accountability. There's no.
Because I have to deal with money. Do you want to deal with the money? Should I mail the money to you? Are you that honest?
I didn't volunteer to be your.
Clearly, you haven't proven that you do have principles. When you go after my wife and you go after and say evil things and you talk about corporations and then you open up my name and you go over to Fogbo, who has a direct line to the White House. They're here to watch us. And you're too dumb to see it. And you're over there talking with the enemy. They've been assaulting us up for over a year. These people come over, they're so evil and so dirty and disgusting. They send links to us of old men having sex. These people come on and talk. Are you sucking dick out there, Gary? Did you get any good dick? I mean, what is wrong with these?
I don't know, but when you're cashing checks...
And connect with
so
those
my question is... when you're cashing checks through trade wins...
No, I don't have no answers for any of your questions because you're not going to speak to get this conversation any place, and it's not going to go anywhere because you're not going to give any account of the evil that you have done.
So you're not going to convene a common law...
I don't owe you nothing.
So you're not going to convene a common law grand jury so we can ask these questions?
You can do whatever you want. I don't know what you want to do, but...
So if we convene a common law grand jury and invite you, would you be so kind as to attend?
Why?
Because...
What, am I a criminal?
No, as you correctly pointed out, a common law grand jury could be convened just to...
That would be a violation of my right of privacy. They have no right to come into my personal life.
So what you're saying is if we convene a...
that they would have to investigate me in that level?
We weren't asking...
Because you sound just like them now.
So if we convene a common law grand jury of the people...
You can convene whatever you want. I wouldn't talk to any of those people. They have no authority. The United States Supreme Court, because you see, you're lost. Look, the United States Supreme Court has already ruled that they can't override a grand jury or a trial jury in anything they do or say or conclude unless... We
didn't ask that. We asked for a meeting. We asked for a meeting with... And your answer is no. Your answer is no. If we ask you for accountability... If the membership asks you
to privacy.
If the membership asks you for accountability, you said no. If the membership says
then the membership wouldn't ask.
The membership did. I just got off the phone with one of the members down south,
So you okay? Well, I'll tell you what. You continue to go and destroy NLA.
I'm not destroying NLA. I'm asking.
You do what you want. It doesn't matter. There are very few people, and I don't know where they may be, that could pick up to do what Gerard and I are doing. Very, very few people. Nobody has done what we're doing. We're operating on principle. You're operating on destruction.
The principle would be to provide Eric Hughes with due process.
I'll tell you what I told Colorado. You guys, you think the whole world's going to go with you and we're going to lose membership? Fine. You know what? Then maybe God is cleansing the whole process because we're doing
the principle is to provide Eric Hughes with due process.
We're not going to give ammunition to the enemy to come to destroy us.
The principle is to provide Eric Hughes with due process, which means
Eric Hughes doesn't deserve anything. I give him out of the mercy of my heart, and he got a lot of it. But he
doesn't deserve his rights under the Constitution.
He proved himself to be a person that cannot be in a position because of the things he said, the things
Did you give him due process?
With you, the destruction says to me,
he doesn't deserve his constitutionally protected right, as per John Darash. Are you serious?
That's right. I'll tell you what, you go do whatever you want because I have nothing else to say because you here think that you have to investigate me and you seem to
I didn't ask to investigate you. I asked you.
You seem to think that I have to follow some kind of rules of something that we don't have.
The Constitution?
We're just an organization of people and ultimately National Liberty Line is just a facilitator of knowledge.
The Constitution?
That's ultimately what we are.
The Constitution?
And we're organizing and teaching people how to get into the court system.
While you deny them their constitutionally protected rights?
You're on a campaign, just like you are down in New York City, and you're taking those energies to come after the only organization in America.
No, I asked for due process for Eric Hughes. And I want to know how all these...
You were at the meeting of the process.
That wasn't due process.
You did nothing but cause problems.
That wasn't due process. That was...
It was everything. It was me trying to get people to be humble and nice to each other. That's what it was. It was me trying to get people to confess, hey, look, you know what? You did me wrong, but you know what? I did wrong too, and I escalated. I didn't get that, did I? I didn't get it from anyone.
It wasn't a confessional.
But that's what it's supposed to be, and that's where we're heading because we're trying to look at this because this is a Christian organization.
You expelled Eric Hughes without due process.
Yesterday I expelled him.
Without due process.
I don't have to give him due process. I'm not the government.
You denied Eric Hughes his
I don't have to give him due process. I'm not the government. Only the government has to give me due process. You don't have to give me due process. You don't have to answer my questions. I don't have a right to interrogate you. I don't have a right to look into your books. I don't have a right to look to your finances. I don't have the right to question your sanity or your problems or your situation. It's not my right. It's not my duty. I'm a human being. I'm not the government. Eric Hughes can go find and do what he wants.
So
he came to us. I didn't go to him.
So you would deny Eric Hughes the same rights you would claim for yourself?
I don't give nobody rights of anything. I give mercy and understanding to people. He's been given as much as I can give. And now at this point,
how is Gary?
For me to go back and try to help out him into the situation to give him, he can become a member and do what he wants, but he can't have authority here no more because the problem is I can't trust him. Another thing he gets his feathers in an uproar. Next thing you know, he's got his fingers on the button because his position, he had access to email everyone at any time. He just never learned to go out to do it. I tried to help him. I don't know the computer. I'm getting one in 2 weeks. He's been 2-weeking it for months, but that's okay. I didn't mind. He did the best he could. He did a pretty good job. There were other people involved that were more connected. They got his messages out, and that's fine. I don't owe Eric anything. He hasn't contributed anything intellectually into the game other than what he's written on his
How is Gary Jolly, Jan, and Robert and Greg Todd put in positions of power?
What are you talking power? You see, here we
made
go back
them
with
national.
Power.
You made them national coordinators.
They are coordinators and organizers.
What bylaws govern? What bylaws?
I talk to these guys and talk about humility. We have to serve. We have to hold ourselves back. We have to bend over backwards. But man doesn't want to do that. The hearts of men are desperately wicked, so says the Lord. So
if we were to convene,
and when we talk about it, and that's why we started with a prayer, I was trying to bring people back to Christ so that we can really be honest with each other and heal the thing.
Is Tradewinds a private printing franchise owned by you?
You see, you have no idea. I'm not going to answer any of your questions. You have no idea of anything that I do. Nothing. You don't know nothing about my life and my corporation.
So that would be a no or yes?
Or anything. You don't know nothing.
Okay, so if we were to convene a common law grand jury to ask for some accountability, you would refuse?
I wouldn't give them any accountability. I'm not the government. I don't have to answer them.
We're the common law, the membership of the NLA.
Why would the grand jury or you think that you could dig into my life and look at my
finances?
Why don't we get a group and why don't we go look at your life? Why don't we look at your psychological background? Because they can say all kinds of things because of what the government done to you. We could do all kinds of stuff with you.
That sounds threatening. Are you threatening me?
Evil.
Are you threatening me? Because that sounds threatening.
No, I didn't threaten you. I'm just telling you.
So all I asked is the money that I made out in the money order that went to Trade Winds, which is a private corporation. You don't want to be accountable for any of this money or where it went.
Of course not. Look, it had to go to a name of something. Okay, and I put it in that, but I'm not using that anymore. It was only, that's why I went and did a trust on NLA, so I could put the funds into one place to pay bills. But what difference does that make?
We're asking for the
Trade Winds was used as a way to take money in and pay the bills. Where else would I put it? In my personal name? Is that where I would put it? Because that opens me right up to a whole bunch of things, especially the IRS. They love to see money going into
Did you get Trade Winds?
Look at Lydia apparently thinks that there's a lot of money going around here, that you got secret corporations you're putting money into.
I didn't say that.
Somebody's put a bug in you that John is not using the money properly, and they need an accounting. People start asking for an accounting when they feel like they've been screwed. Let me tell you something. I took a resource of mine that would have paid my land taxes, and I got the money for John to print the printing. A donation of quite a big donation that I could have used for my land taxes, and I said, look, I got a year on this. It's more important that I feed NLA. That's how John gets his money, and all that money. Let me tell you something. It goes out. He's running a big organization. We sent out 1 million. I don't know what it was, over 1 million pieces of paper on a fax machine, and the original estimates that we got for that was $500,000. We did it for frickin' $20,000 that we raised. Yeah, your money from Trade Wind, guess where it went? It went in that frickin' fax machine, Lydia. And you want an accounting for it? Well, go to the 96 courthouses where we sent it, and all the Congress and the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and just make sure they all got our pieces of paper. Because if you think it doesn't cost anything, and if you think John's making so much money, look, if it was that easy to start a thing online and make a business, these guys wouldn't be getting $5,000 an hour trying to teach people how to do it, and it never works. He's not making. We're fairly hand to mouth over here with this thing, and you want to convene a common law grand jury when we can barely make our monthly payments. You're over there in the street. You got the guy that's selling pencils, the blind man on the corner. You go, where'd you put the quarter I gave you? But that's what you're doing. You're going after.
Well, if you're spending $20,000 and it's all going to NLA, why not just do an accounting for the membership?
Did you ever hear of the organization and a corporation called the IRS? Did you ever hear that?
So you're doing this to avoid the IRS?
Are you serious with that question?
I'm asking you.
You see, that shows how naive you are.
No, I read your
stuck in the system.
No, I read your court papers in the Southern District of New York. I read your.
Is that what you think?
I read your court papers in the Southern District of New York, and you were in federal court. So all of this is part of the public domain, and and your wife's name is on the court papers in the.
Exactly, that is. And like I told you before, the only people who ever came after my wife to put my wife in jail, who's in bed half the time, she can't sit up most of the day, and you want to see her in a jail cell? Because that's what the IRS wants to see. And then you connected me that way. That was evil. That was evil.
What John ended up in the IRS court for was nothing that had to do with National Reliance. It was something that happened years before that they came after him because he's a target now. And there was no money changing hand. There was no money in accounts. It was all bullshit. It was a check that went back to the client because the client dropped out, but it was in John's name. So they used that, and they ended up giving him a release of lien and an apology.
And I got that in writing.
That's right. So now you're here and saying, well, you're on the IRS and your wife and you're this. You know what? You don't know what's going on. And now, obviously, somebody's whispering in your ear telling you that John's this guy that's manipulating money and this and that and the other thing. And it's all lies. It's all, I don't know. do they feed drugs and then program you for this? How could you think that I would be involved in anything? I'm over here. I'm trying to work now. This is my business. I'm losing money here, and this is what I've been doing for the past 4 years, 5 years, is taking time out of my business to do this. And maybe I should make an accounting of that. When I'm in a nice shop making money, I'm supposed to be billing $70 an hour. So this is actually a loss. Let me claim it with the IRS. Imagine that. You see, you want stuff that's not there, and you want us. You even said go to the judicial oversight committees. Do you know that the judicial oversight in New York State was closed down when Cuomo first came into office because they were more corrupt than the judges they were watching?
No, actually, I actually said for federal judges you go to the House Judiciary Committee. But what we have so far is there's.
Oh, you believe the House Judiciary Committee is a bunch of good guys, too, right? They're not evil.
No, I was just correcting you. So far what we got is there was no due process when Eric Hughes was expelled. You don't feel that you have to give him due process.
If I punish my child tonight.
Pardon me?
And I say, if I punish one of my children tonight, is Lydia going to come in and say, where's the due process that you used?
Okay, that's not what I asked. You expelled Eric Hughes from a voluntary association without due process.
We got rid of him without due process. We gave him more than what he deserved, and
Okay.
we gave him more than anything else.
It was more than due process.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're not the government. Why would I have to give him due process?
I didn't say you're a voluntary.
Why am I obligated to give Eric or you or anyone due process? Why?
This is a voluntary association.
That's right. You could voluntarily come and voluntarily leave.
Okay. Then how are people put in positions of power like Gary?
People take those positions. They take them themselves. I look for volunteers. People volunteer for them.
You can't.
I don't ask anybody to do. Look, sometimes I see somebody like Gary.
So do you make it clear to? Do you make it clear? Do you make it clear to? Do you make it clear? Do you make it clear to people that when they join the National Liberty Alliance that you are their dictator, king, lord, master?
Not their dictator. You can call. Look at.
And if you don't do what they like, then you expel them without due process.
Let me tell you, you want answers. I'm giving you answers, but you don't want to hear the answers. We are taking something and trying to make good out of this. We are taking people. We are trying to lift people up. We are trying to educate people. People cannot have just automatically come in and be able to do what they please and say what they want because they don't know what they need. They don't know what they're saying because they're not educated. And we're giving them that education in order that they can step up, that they can understand particularly the court system, the justice systems, the problems in America, to be able to become an administrator and become part of the solution.
Okay, so basically you have no
SOBs in government by doing the right thing and bringing in the king of the court, which is God himself. And doing the right thing, to be an investigative committee for that grand jury, to go after these people, to force them to obey the law. Now, you can't just allow people to do anything they want if they don't have the knowledge of how to do it, what to do. They
didn't ask that. The membership,
the principles of common law.
The membership,
they don't even understand the definition of liberty.
The membership asked if there would be an accounting. The membership asked what the bylaws were.
Well, the answer is no. There will be no counting, and if they don't like it, they can leave.
Who's the membership? You, Lydia? You and 10 other people on a Skype call. That's the membership.
No, actually, we've been asking. I've got people calling me. I didn't solicit their calls. They called me, and this is what.
Of course, you got Fogbo calling you.
No, I don't talk to Fogbo. I barely know what Fogbo is.
You don't know who they are, but they are. They're not calling themselves Fogbo.
Okay.
Probably the nice lawyer that you're having coffee with.
So there's no accounting, and there will be no accounting. Eric was expelled without due process. There are no bylaws.
That's all good. You're right. I don't.
No, I'm just asking.
We'll get rid of Eric if we want to get rid of Eric. If he wants to join and we allow him to join, we'll allow him to join. I'm not the government. I don't give accounting to you or to anyone else, and that's it.
So when checks are cashed,
IRS has been on my back for 30 years, and the reason why I'm not in jail is because I don't give them accounting, and I won in court on two counts. I won both counts. Okay, so it doesn't matter. I don't care. I want to be clear about this. There's no bylaws. The people who are put in national positions like Gary, Jan, Robert Briscoe, Hey, look at Lydia. All you are is a troublemaker, and you just want to go out, and no matter what, you're not going to. Whatever answers you want to get, you want to make ugly anything about it.
I'm not making ugly. Tell me where I'm wrong.
Even if we were bend over to work with you, you don't care. You're out to do destruction.
Why don't you have a free and fair election and have the membership?
Why would we do? You're going to make. Are you serious? Who do you think? Are you serious?
Yeah. Why don't you?
Because I'll tell you why. Because this has nothing to do. Hold on a minute. This has nothing to do with power. All these positions are just temporary. And if you listen, you will always hear NLA must decrease and the people must increase.
But that's not according to Grant.
You can't decrease until you give them knowledge. No, don't tell me what's in my heart and what's not in my heart, because I know what's got to be done. I have to give accountability of my life at the end of my life. And I understand that, and I live every day with that knowledge, and that's what makes me do the right thing.
So when you were, so the contract,
we're going to allow someone to become elected into a position. Okay, now we come political. We lose everything we're looking at, everything we're talking about.
when you
know, a lot of people think they need to not a lot of people, but a couple of people like you think they need to replace me because you guys are the dictators.
No, I actually think that the funny thing that would happen was
nor is the people, nor is the these
no, I didn't think we had to replace you. I actually
qualified, nor is the individuals, a couple individuals over in Colorado, which are not qualified, nor are you qualified, nor is Jason qualified.
I'm not running for office. I don't want to run for the NLA.
To take this position and to teach these things, they have no knowledge of these things.
I'm not running for office. I don't want an office. Our question.
Anyway,
our
you're
question.
to make trouble and not to talk. And
okay.
So I think this conversation.
Well, actually, the last question I had was